All right, welcome everybody to our Planning Commission. And we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And thank you, Commissioner Hill, for that. And we'll take a roll call. Looks like we're all here except for Commissioner Mangum. So, okay. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and start the public input. And so time has been set aside for any members of the public who'd like to make comments on items that are not on the agenda. So this is your time to just speak out and make your thoughts known. Okay, it looks like we don't have any members of the public who'd like to participate. So we're going to go ahead and close public input and move to the next item on the agenda. These are public hearings. So the first one is the General Plan Land Use Amendment 19.96 acres located at Crossroads Boulevard and Pioneer Crossing from regional commercial to business park. City initiated.
Commissioners, this is kind of a follow-up from instruction from the City Council item. So back in June, probably it was May when it came forward to the Planning Commission, but in June, the City Council approved a land use and zoning change on property that is near Crossroads Boulevard and Pioneer Boulevard. And so I'll show you on the map here. This property that's highlighted in green is currently zoned agriculture. It is vacant, undeveloped. It has a land use designation of regional commercial, but the property that you go directly east there was the one that was changed in both zoning and land use to allow for a development, a commercial development that was in there. Part of that zoning that was in there and land use was business park. And that was removed from this property in favor of doing some high density residential as well as commercial. And so we kind of changed the lines around based on how the configuration of the development was going to occur. But the discussion that occurred at that time was the same owner owned the property west across the street, the 19.96 acres. And the conversation was, okay, if we remove the business park on this property to the east, then the property to the west needs to have business park. So it was kind of the instruction at that time is come back to us with a change on this so that we're not changing the zone. That will be subject to future developers or some need of the property owner. It will remain agricultural until that point. But when they want to develop it, it will have a land use designation of business park if this is approved. So this is, the idea was we don't want to lose some of our business park zoning that we have in place, that we do want to allow for offices, both Class A and Class B, even though they may not be in high demand right now. We know in the future, as we continue to develop all of our other types of development, that there will be a need for that. And so we want to reserve some space for that type of development. So that's the request, that we change the land use on this property from regional commercial to business park.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. This is a public hearing, so I'm going to open it to the floor to the public. Any members who'd like to make comments, please come up to the podium and say what you will. We'd like to limit your comments to 3 minutes. Given that there's no one from the public who'd like to make comments, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up to the commissioners. did I turn you off?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Here you go.
Okay, so
I did it again.
that's okay. Okay. So right now, sorry, can I?
And then you next.
Right now it's, I'm sorry, what's the height requirement for what it's currently zoned? Well, it's currently zoned agricultural. And
Right.
then for business
Park,
park, what's that
be
height?
75 foot, I believe. Is that correct, Sarah? Yes.
Is that, it's December and my brain is fried, as we all know. 75 foot, how many stories is that?
Can vary, 6.
Yeah, approximately 6 would be.
So that's a pretty high, and then the other option that we have right now is that it's business, what? Sorry.
Regional commercial is
Regional
what,
commercial, and is that the same height of 75 foot?
It's 50.
It's 50, okay. So regional commercial is 50, and what are the other differences between regional commercial and,
I think it's setbacks and lot size, but the height is probably the biggest one.
okay. And this property does back up to individual homes, right?
well, there is a street in between. So you got residential north of that, yes.
So there's residential currently north, and the street in between is not a large street, it's just a small,
It's a local street.
yeah. And then it will also be next to some higher density across Crossroads Boulevard?
So yes, you have a regional commercial all throughout that area currently, as shown there in red. And what was currently in the high-density area and part of that red on the eastern portion was a large chunk of business park zoning. So there was that in that area. But and then you also go northwards to, you see the very corner, the northeast corner of that map. You see some blue designation there. That is business park there as well. So we've had in this area, and then I don't have a larger map. We could go to one if we need to, but if you go westward from this property across Pioneer Boulevard would be part of the downtown area, which that northern section has been looked at and conceptually planned for business park as well. Then you go north of that across which then becomes Highway 73 or Quarry Ride and Mountain View diagonally across from that property. Then you've got more business park there. But so there are other areas around here that do have the business park designation. The idea basically was we didn't want to lose acreage, so that's why we hopped across the street there. And also the fact that most or a large portion of the downtown area will have commercial uses, and all around that area is a lot of regional commercial. So it's kind of determining the balance between how much regional commercial do we need versus.
Can we go back to that last map? Sorry, I hate to cut you off on that.
That was the right map, because it already shows the business park, so I don't think that was the right map. Did we already have this one on there? It's just, or is it regional commercial? Let me pull up a different map, I don't think this one, that was on the desktop here, but not.
While we're pulling that up, how tall are the medical buildings across from the New Smiths? I'm sorry, I've been here for too long, I can't not call it the New Smiths.
Those are 4-story, I believe.
Those are taller than 50. We could pull it up to find out the exact number. They are taller than 50. I don't know the exact number. Well, actually, one of them is in the regional commercial zone, or one of them is in a zone that allows 50 feet. So they had to be right at 50 feet, and then the other one is in the business park zone, so they're a little taller.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact number, but yeah, that's a 50-foot building. The shorter of the two, and then the one that's a little bit taller is over 50 feet.
Okay. So, yeah, if possible, I'd love to see a bigger map of that area with what the zoning is.
I'll have that up in just a second.
I'm going to strongly encourage that we either that we vote for regional commercial on this, or that we table this until the Planning Commission members have a chance to view this area in person. I remember when this came through not too long ago, and I'm pretty sure I voted in support of whatever change they were making at that time. Since then, I've had a chance to look at this in person a little bit closer, and this area it's got a lot of residential, and then there's this smallish area that is pretty siloed off between some bigger streets. And so it really does feel like it should be more of that residential, even the high-density residential. Putting businesses into that area doesn't feel like the vibe, for better words, of what Saratoga Springs should be feeling like. And I would really not feel comfortable with putting in really large buildings next to those homes that are already there, and ending up with another situation with those homes and those buildings that are so tall next to each other like we already have with that business area. So
I guess my comment would be, you look at the historical alignment of Crossroads as it, before it dipped down and met Pioneer Crossing. It used to go straight westward there, and you can still see that alignment with property lines there. That was long ago kind of designated as the boundary line between commercial and residential. And that's how those properties, even with that piece that we're talking about tonight, what type of zoning we might want on it, it has always been looked at as a commercial developable piece.
And I understand that. And historically, we've done things one way, but that is definitely why we want to plan and make sure that we aren't just following things based on a historical alignment of things, and that we're actually taking into account the changes that have happened throughout the years. And the changes that have happened are that the roads have changed, and putting in really large buildings in that area is just not going to feel right for that area, especially considering that there's already residential homes that would just be a street away, and it just doesn't, it's not going to sit right. It's not going to look right. It's not going to feel right. And part of what we're supposed to do here is make these long-term plans for what's best for our city. And so I can understand the historical point on it. I also have thought about this as well, and like recently driven by it in person and looked at it and a few times and taken a few harder looks at it. So that's my personal, or I guess not personal, that's my opinion on this. And I'm happy to hear other people's comments as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fossey-Burns. Commissioner Hill?
Rachel, thank you for your input. I take a little different look at that. Number one, Ken, you said that we're replacing, it's a swap, and whether it's on one side or another. And I read in the write-up that it says it's the city's intention that we have the best use for this property, which would be business. It's consistent with all, there were no findings that would put it outside that would be of concern. The one thing, and it may be a question, as we were going through the downtown master planning, we talked a little bit about across the street. It's not going to be a part of the downtown, but we've got medical that we expect to expand in the future. Whenever you have that kind of medical, you need office buildings for the doctors to be close at hand. And I see that this is truly it's going to enhance what's happening there. We have some control over that east side on the outside of the downtown. We talked a little bit that, we'd hope at some point maybe we could get a university come in and have a campus and have education and medical, and then the downtown area. So as I looked at this, I felt really good. I've been out and looked at the property. We're going to have a lot of traffic there. This is going to be the hub, the center of the traffic. So thank you for your presentation and the thoroughness of it. And, you know, as I read also, it's a direction I think council really wants to go. And they're thinking a little bit of the downtown and what we need to be doing. So I find that this is consistent with what we wanted. Thank you for your preparation. Thanks, Co-Chair. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Mann?
So I appreciate Rachel's opinions, and just to kind of expand upon that, you know, I know that, and I have seen over the past decade, a massive decline in the need and the desire for business parks and office space use. As technology continues to grow and expand, the desire and the ability of people to be able to, you know, professionals to be able to work from home has greatly increased. So we're seeing empty office buildings across the nation that have for sale signs in the windows, and just, they're not being utilized, which doesn't serve the city or the surrounding areas, the homeowners that live in the area. And I also know that we have a strong demand and a strong need for development and new homes. We have a massive housing shortage, and I think that land would be better used for, like Rachel said, for even high-density housing. Any kind of housing would be much more in demand and needed than another office space, particularly because you mentioned that we have another one going in the downtown area. I just can't imagine that we would have that much need for office space. But perhaps, you know, perhaps if you guys have data and, you know, you've done surveys and such to show that there will be this need and the need is growing, then I would be happy to look at that again.
Can I comment? Do you mind if I comment? So you're absolutely right. Today, there probably isn't a demand for that. One of the things we want to look at as a city over the long term, you know, the general plan, so we're not changing the zoning right now, we're changing the general plan to guide future growth. And I totally understand your concerns about height and factoring that into the conversation. So I did look up the Thrive, the one on Thrive, you know, across from Smith's, that's 60 feet. It is in the taller building is in the business park zone. So that gives you an idea of what 60 feet looks like. So as a city, when we're looking at the general plan, we really want to be looking at what are the needs of the city, you know, at our build out population, at our long-term growth. There's absolutely not the demand you're talking about for office space. That's why we're not getting it right now. But we're not even halfway to our growth limit, you know what I mean? And the city, though it's really interesting, right? Because one of the things we want to provide in the city is jobs for people to work at locally here in the city. And if we don't have room for office spaces in the future, we'll never get it back. So that's a concern we have for the long-term growth, is how do we preserve that property? Because trust me, anybody today would be like, no, that makes no sense. You know, you're going to put business park there, nothing's going to happen for 15 years. But that is actually the point, is when the city is ready for that, when the economy is ready for that, that we have land available. Because if we give it up for all these other things, we never get it back. So when Business Park came out of this other location across the street, it was a concern for us just in the long-term, you know, planning of the city. Well, we don't want to keep giving up Business Park. Every little piece of business park we have on the general plan, people would love for that not to be business park right now in today's economy, today's market. But then 15, 20, 30 years from now, where are those office jobs and how do we get them in Saratoga? Especially, there's many reasons we want that. One of them is traffic. You know what I mean? The more local jobs we have, the less commuter traffic we have. So I'm just adding that for input into your conversation. I don't want to tell you, I don't want to influence your vote. I just wanted to give the longer picture of the general plan and why the city council specifically wants to hold on to these business park land use.
I can understand and appreciate that. Thank you for your feedback.
Nope, keep turning you off. And you're done?
I'm done.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Mann and Commissioner Spasity Burns.
can we pull up like a Google map or just a different map and look at this area again, though? Okay, so so it's the entire block, that entire piece,
It's, right, this is what we're proposing.
and then where's that high density?
It's gonna be right over here. What we saw, and and we can turn layers on and off. So this is the land use that got approved, and it's got regional commercial along Crossroads Boulevard, and then high density proposed in the middle of the commercial hub.
Wouldn't it make more sense to move that high density into that spot and move the regional commercial into where the high density is? We've already got houses into that spot. We're siloing that high density around commercial.
Yeah, and we do have, that one, we're probably a little bit past that discussion just because we've already approved the zoning and, it had a concept plan with it. So we're a little bit past that discussion. I appreciate where you're coming from. At this point, we can't take it back because we already gave it.
So with that approved plan though, and looking at that high density and then looking at those houses that are already there, we're talking about putting 75-foot buildings in between that. That doesn't even align with our plan of having that staggered.
Right, transitions between
Transitions.
uses.
Yeah.
I understand that.
If you think, and Scott brought this up in his comments, if you think of the development pattern that is occurring on Pioneer Boulevard as it goes down southwards, those are business park type uses, the hospital, the University of Utah owned property and what they may do with it in the future. They're along the Pioneer Boulevard there, or Pioneer Crossing. It kind of follows that pattern that way. So it may not be feathering out or transitioning out from the road necessarily, but it's following the roadway pattern.
And I want to pull up the code and the setbacks because and show those to you. In relation to this zone, you had a question about what are some of the differences between the two. So I do want to have that in front of you. And there is one thing I want to point out in particular related to setbacks. When a business park is next to residential, the setback has to be equal to the height of the building. So let me get there. And I think that could help. With your concern is that, right here. So business park is this column here, and then we have regional commercial over here. And then when we get to, we're gonna have to kind of trace it down, right? So third one in from the side here is business park. And then when we get to the setbacks, so interior side setbacks equal to the height of the building where it's adjacent to a residential mixed use or mixed waterfront zone. So in that location that you're concerned about, I don't know if that helps alleviate some of your concern at all to know that the taller the building goes, the further they have to be from the residential.
Do they have that same requirement on the Thrive development?
Yes, they did have that same. Well, they are in Thrive. One of the buildings in Thrive is also in the business park zone.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is I've been in Dartmoor Meadows and watched some of those houses that don't get any sunlight anymore because the buildings are there and block them out,
Yeah.
right? And that's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
But
so
let's
then that might not help.
Yeah, let's just be really clear that we're talking about putting up buildings that are so big that the houses that are there won't get sunlight.
Yeah, if they maximize that height, then that would definitely change their sunlight.
Yeah. I understand the need to have development and business development and jobs and tax revenue, and I understand there's importance to this, but the role of the Planning Commission is to look at these things and take into consideration what is best for our city and our citizens. And this isn't it. And that's all. Thank you.
Any other comments from the Planning Commission? Okay, then I'm open to taking a motion.
The Planning Commission forward a recommendation for approval of the proposed general plan amendment to change the future land use designation on the property as identified in Exhibit A with the findings and conditions in the staff report.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll second that. Do we have a second? I'm sorry, good. I don't remember how to turn them all on at the same time.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you. We got a second? Any questions to the motion? All those in favor? Aye. All those against?
Aye. Nay, sorry.
Yeah, nay.
Would you like to make a comment on the reason for your nay?
I think my comments earlier can stand. I don't think this is a good spot to put business, oh my words. I'm sorry, y'all.
All right, thank you.
Similarly, I don't think that this is best use for our citizens or really for the city, because I don't see that the need for office space, increasing over the years. If anything, I think technology is going to continue to grow, and more people will be able to work from home. We'll actually be seeing more permits being requested for in-home businesses. I think that we do need some business parks. I don't think this is the location for the business park. And I think that it would actually be better for us to receive our tax revenue from single-family or even multifamily homes.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you for your comments. The motion, or the, it does pass 4-2.
3-2.
3-2, sorry. That's right, because it's not a person here. All right, well, thank you for that. Thank you, Kim. All right, we'll go to the next item, another public hearing, amendments to Title 19 Land Development Code of the City of Saratoga Springs, Chapters 19.02, definitions, and 19.12, requirements for subdivision review and improvement plans submission. This is also city-initiated.
Yes, and this is a response to state legislative action that is now state code that regulates how we review and approve subdivision plats. And so what came out of that from the last legislative session almost a year ago was the verbiage that will steer us into what was considered to be a better situation for reviewing and approving plats. So a lot of these things that I will review with you, we have already been doing. It has been a matter of policy, if not code. And so what we have now done is make this a code requirement if this gets approved, which kind of needs to, so that we're following state code as per their bill that was approved. So in order to do that, we are adding two definitions to our code. One is review cycle and one is subdivision improvement plans. That's the verbiage that is used in the state code. So we do reference the state code section there so that our definition is the same as theirs. Generally, it's what it means, the cycle of reviewing, how long that takes, how many reviews we can have in our process, and the subdivision improvement plans we have normally referred to as construction plans or construction plans, final construction plans or whatever, but in the state code it's referred to as subdivision improvement plans. So generally this is what came out of that, and the verbiage, it's fairly extensive. I do have that we could read through if you would like, but the shorter version would be here, so I will read through those. City may require additional information to ensure compliance with our codes and standards. Request shall be specific to our ordinances. We can't just make any type of request for changes or additional information if it's not supported by our code. City may only require up to 4 review cycles. In other words, they submit, we review, send back red lines, and we do it again, and we do it again, and we do it again. We can only do that up to 4 times, and if we haven't got through the process by the end of the 4th time, then it's considered approved. But we have already been basically doing that. We don't normally take 4 review cycles to get through to that end process, but this is just kind of putting a cap on that. And then there are some stipulations with that. One of them being unless the development is in a geological hazardous area, there can be additional review required. Limitations are being placed to the changes or corrections that the city can request unless it is to protect the health and safety of or to enforce state and federal laws. The city has an additional 20 days to review. So currently in the code, we have up to 20 days to review that, or 15 days depending on the application. But we can take an additional 20 days to review revisions if they are, the applicant took more than 20 days to give us the time back or give us the resubmittal. Then the city may only require construction drawings or subdivision improvement plans at the preliminary plat stage. That's according to our code. Now, the state code said you can only require it at either preliminary plat or final plat, and we had it required at both places in our code, or it is currently listed as such. We have, by a matter of policy, been requiring only at preliminary plat since November, which was the state's deadline for putting this into effect. So we are already in compliance with that, but we need to bring the code into compliance with that we will only require it at preliminary plat stage. And that's basically it. Is there any questions on what's being put in here? We recommend approval.
Okay, so this is a public, well, thank you. And this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open up the floor to the public for any comments on this issue. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Given that there's no one to make comments, I'll close public hearing and open up questions to the commission. Commissioner Hill?
Thank you, Co-Chair. Ken, I had an opportunity in the fall conference for APA to go through a session on subdivisions, and they went pretty in-depth and looked at the state legislative direction. And so many communities were so behind trying to catch up because of that November deadline. And I just want to let the city and the planning group know, we're right in line, we're right on top of these things, and we're trying to do the right thing. And, Ken, I think as you indicated, we've been doing a lot of these things just out of being the best practices. And so I support this 100%. We, by law, we've got to do this, but your thoroughness in what we've done and the understanding of it as I read through it was right on to the session that I went to. So thank you so very much. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Co-Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. And Commissioner Wilden?
Yeah, I too want to thank you for your wonderful efforts here. I really appreciate this. And can you go back to the slide that you just reviewed with us?
This
I just
one
had
or
yes, there we go. As I was going through these year-end trainings that I should have spaced out throughout the year, but haven't. I'm probably the only one. But there was some things that in some of the training that really said these are the type of phrases we don't want to have in our ordinances. And, like the city may require, city may require additional. Those type of things potentially open us up to, okay, we're going to really require it here, and there we're not going to require it. So that just kind of the first thing I noticed after I went through the training and went through
and what's interesting about that is borrowed language from the state.
Well,
they're saying we're going to let you require more if da 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 da. So,
So you're going to just pass the buck?
well, so really it's saying that we may require it if there are certain stipulations or circumstances that permit that. So I think that's okay to say it in that instance, because we're not going to require it in all situations. But there will be certain situations where we may require it, and it's going to depend on if that information is needed.
Okay, I just want to make sure you knew that I was looking at the training. All right, no further comments?
Thank you. Keep us on our toes.
Would a qualifying phrase make that any better? Like depending on, I guess depending on the situation, it's just as vague as, yeah, it's just as vague.
Okay, let's look at the actual language there. So on,
Just something to make it sound like it's not so arbitrary, right?
Yes.
yeah, so in
Yes.
reviewing a subdivision, what did I do? Are you moving it?
I think I clicked it.
The city may require additional information relating to an applicant's plans to ensure compliance with municipal ordinances and approved standards and specifications for construction of public improvements. And modification to plans that do not meet current ordinances, applicable standards or specifications, or do not contain complete information. Such a request shall be specific and include citations to ordinances, standards, or specifications that require the modifications to subdivision improvement plans, and shall be logged in an index of requested modifications.
Okay, that's pretty thorough.
There's a lot going on in the sentences there. But again, I think it's just saying that, outside of our standard requirements or our checklist, there may be times that we need to require a little bit more. And I think that verbiage is giving us guidance as to how and when we can do that.
Well, I think if the state provided you the verbiage, then we'd probably say, you're off the hook here.
No, I think it, yeah, it goes to pretty deep detail into what kinds of things. It certainly does not sound like it's it's arbitrary, especially with what you just read. So I think it looks pretty good. But thank you for bringing it
You
up,
look
though.
at subsection D, and there's further language in regards to that and how, it has to find or fall into certain categories or criteria, so.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Then I open up, sorry, I can't get this. Okay, entertaining a motion?
Based on the evidence and explanations today, I move to forward a positive recommendation to the City Council for the proposed amendment to Title 19. Sorry, am I reading the right thing? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
With the findings and conditions in the staff report.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Wait, do we have any questions to the motion? No. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Any questions to the motion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? All right, thank you. Passes unanimously. Okay, so I'm going to turn myself off. We're going to the next item on the agenda, another public hearing. This time it's the Gateway Overlay Design Standards Code Amendment, amending 19.04.14 of the Development Code. It's citywide and city initiated.
Okay, thank you, Co-Chair. Yes, so this is the Gateway Overlay, which is basically the entrance to the city. So anywhere that's like an entrance to the city, we call it the Gateway Overlay Zone. And we have additional standards that apply to those businesses that build there. So basically, we're trying to make it a more aesthetically pleasing entrance to the city. And so we have a code to do that. This amendment is proposing specific changes to the design standards and landscaping elements of that. And so what we've done here is the code. You can see we've added a sentence, a unified landscaping theme must be provided with, that is designed to, and then we go into detail. So we're crossing out this section here that you can see on the bottom of the screen, and then we kind of put it into a table format later on, and then add additional details. So this is more of the language that's being removed, but we then add it in down below here. So the first section that we add is we are asking for an entrance feature. So if it's in an area that doesn't have like a sign that says "Welcome to Saratoga Springs," we encourage the developer to allow us to have a spot where we can put a sign, and then they can actually even earn points if they give us one of those signs towards their landscaping or gateway requirements. And so that's to try and encourage that, and hopefully we can get a sign if we don't. And then we call these elements, we call them streetscaping. So that's item 9, streetscape. Each lot in the gateway overlay shall meet the streetscape requirements as outlined in the table below. And so this is the first part of the table that kind of outlines what is required. And so it says every lot in the gateway zone shall contribute at least 10 points of the table's amenities for every 150 linear feet facing an arterial or collector street. So what that means is basically if you own a property and if it's a long property with a lot of frontage on the road, you have to provide more amenities. So the more frontage that you have on the road, the more amenities that you have to provide. And so this is saying that for every 150 feet, you have to provide 10 points. Amenities shall face the main road with the intention of the streetscape elements being visible as one enters the city, and the land use authority shall approve the site plan. And so these are the amenities that we've proposed be required or be allowed in the gateway overlay. So basically think of this as kind of like a list, and you get to pick what you want to put on your property. We're not telling them you have to have all 10 of these items, but you can pick which ones. But depending on which one you pick, they earn different points. So for example, tree grate is worth 2 points, but if you did an outdoor restaurant seating, you would get 4 points. So that's worth more points depending on which item you choose to put in on your property. And the idea is we want to create it like a place where pedestrians want to be, like they want to eat outside, they want to walk around this area, they want to be in that area. And so that's what we're trying to promote with these different amenities. And so then we include in the code, we're going to include an example because that's kind of complicated. So we include like an example, we use an actual lot and we say, okay, if this were the lot that you were developing, and then we just kind of say you would, based on this lot and where it's located, this is how many points you would be required, and these would be the items that you would have to provide. And so then we show, here's an example of how you could get 16 points to meet the requirement. And so in this example, we just said they chose these 4 items. They did 2 times 2 of the outdoor seating, and so that that gets them what the points that they needed. And then and continuing on below that example, we then have kind of example images of these amenities. So you can see here what a planter bed box would look like, a litter receptacle, outdoor restaurant seating, ornamental trees, benches, bike rack, drinking fountain, gas fire pit, and then tree guard and tree grate. Some of these items do have an asterisk after them. That's indicating that if there is a city-branded item, for example, we have the park benches that say Saratoga Springs. If there is a city-branded item, they have to use the one with the city logo on it. So that is basically our gateway design standard. So this would be required of any person that's developing a property that requires a site plan in the gateway overlay. They would have to meet this requirement in addition to our other requirements for like the regional commercial zone. I think that pretty much sums it up. So.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. This is a public hearing, so I'm going to open up the floor to the public. If there's any comments on this particular agenda item, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Given that there's no comments from the public, we'll close the public hearing And let's open up to the Planning Commission. Commissioner Hill?
Austin and Planning Commission, I'm appreciative of adding clarity and effectiveness to what we're doing here, especially in the gateway overlay zones. I really appreciate when we're looking at the streetscape elements, and to me, it's kind of like going through kind of wayfinding so that you can identify kind of where you are. It's not by gateway perspective, but it gives a theme throughout the whole city. And so I was very interested and felt really good with those elements and looking for some standards there as we move forward. You know, the earlier we can do this in a city, then you're not cluttered with what everybody else thinks is best, and it gives that theme. And so, you know, that landscaping theme, I think, was very appropriate, and I appreciated the work and the presentation. Thank you. Thanks, Co-Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Any other comments? Yeah, I had a question. So the property owners who are in the gateway zone, any comments from them about these new requirements?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we were working on this code as Steel Ridge Plaza was being developed. So that's the one here, over here, just on Crossroads Boulevard as you come in, where the car wash is and the R&R Tactical. The developer on that, they were actually pretty surprisingly willing to work with us. We said, hey, we're working on this code. We want to have a city sign. They said, you know what? Let's do it. Let's put it in on the corner. So outdoor seating, sure, we like the idea. And so they were actually implemented this stuff into their design on that project, even though it wasn't code yet. So they liked the ideas, and they thought some of their comments were that it would actually make their project more successful or have a better feel to it by including these elements.
Oh, good. That's terrific. So we award amenity points for the property owner, but the amenities are private or are they public? They're private, right? Because it's on their property.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be, I mean, it's on private property. So, I mean, for example, let's just say the restaurant seating, like it's private, but it's going to be used by residents of the city, and it's going to make that restaurant, have a different feel to it than it would without those elements, right?
Okay.
So,
And then for things like the sign, like if there's a city sign or such, still it's on private property, and so the property owner and those who come after are responsible for maintenance?
the way that we were proposing it is that there would be an easement on that, and so, the city would have an easement to put our sign on the property, but so the sign wouldn't necessarily be private property, the city sign.
Okay. Same with if they were to put like city benches as well?
As far as the benches go, that I think those would just be, I mean, I don't know, that's a good question. I guess it'd be on private property. So, I mean.
So city benches would be on private property, even though it's open to the public for anybody to use, not just like for a restaurant. Right?
Yeah, so a lot of it is you're going to see is going to be kind of like let's just think of like a park strip. So like it's to be maintained by the private property owner, but anyone can walk along that sidewalk or sit on that bench. That's kind of the thought process behind that.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it's clear who is in charge of keeping things nice, just so that 5 years from now, there's not a question. Does compliance control, or do they look and then tell the property owner to fix their bench because it looks ratty, or I mean, is that
Yeah, that's
that
a
would work?
good comment. Yeah, so I mean, we would look at just like, let's say they had dead trees, or they weren't mowing the lawn, mowing the strip in front of their business along Crossroads Boulevard. If they weren't maintaining that, then they would be in violation of our code, and they would be required to bring it up to code, right? And so, same thing with the bench. If it were to fall into disrepair or whatever, we would expect them to keep that maintained.
Okay. Okay, any other comments? Then I'm willing to entertain a motion.
Based on,
Sorry.
I think I turned it off. No. Based upon the evidence and the explanations received today, I move to forward a positive recommendation to the City Council for the proposed amendment to Title 19 with the findings and conditions in the staff report.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any questions to the motion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? All right, the item passes unanimously. Great. Reset. All right, so we're now down to the last business or public hearing item. That's the standard plat template. It's a recommendation for an amendment to the city's standard technical specifications and drawings to include the standard plat template, city initiated.
Thank you. Probably have it in their packets, I believe. You have an example of the standard template, is that correct?
We do.
This is probably just more of a formality than anything. We have been using and we are using and we will continue to use a standard plat template so that when those developers are coming into our community and they're platting property, that they have the correct information. They have the formatting, they have signature blocks, they have standard notes, they have details. And with this standard plat template, hopefully it will shorten the process so that they know what to look at ahead of time or as they're doing that. Again, this is something we've been doing in the past. The difference is it has not been a part of the city's standard technical specifications and drawings. And so it was the recommendation of our legal folks, I believe, that be included so that there's no discrepancy and that the developers will know that that is a requirement based on what the city has adopted. And that's not just personal taste depending on whoever happens to be reviewing that plat at the time. So it's more of a formality. But it's something, again, that we've been doing in the past. It's just to clean up possibly a loose end so that we don't run into ambiguities, I think. Any questions?
All right, thank you for the presentation. This is a public hearing, so I'm going to open up to the public. Any comments pertaining to this particular item, please bring it up to the podium. And please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Given that there's no public comment, we're going to close public hearing and open it up to the Planning Commission. Given there are no questions, I don't have any questions either, so I am open for a motion.
Make a motion, I move to forward a positive recommendation to the City Council regarding adoption of the proposed revision to the city standard technical.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second. Any questions of the motion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? All right, it passes unanimously. Next item, let me close everything out here, is the approval of the 2025 Planning Commission annual meeting schedule. Any questions on the schedule? If everyone's had a chance to look at it, all right. Okay, open for a motion.
The 2025 Planning Commission meeting schedule.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second. Any questions? All right, all those in favor of adopting the schedule, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? All right, passes unanimously. All right, next business item is the approval of minutes from November 25th, 2024. Any comments on the minutes? Any changes? All right, open for a motion.
I move that we approve the meeting minutes from November 25th, 2024.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We've got a second. Any questions? All those in favor of adopting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Any against? All right, so the minutes are adopted unanimously. Next, any commissioner comments?
I think this is Ken's last meeting, is that right?
It is.
You've done an amazing job. And I like the way you just move things here along. That was helpful too. But how many years have you served?
10 years.
Well, that is a marvelous. Yeah, I've only been with you for a couple, but I've loved working with you. Thank you so much.
Appreciate the comments. Thank you.
I second that.
No, thank you.
And I'd like to add just a few, I've not been on the commission that long, but I've been able to sit by Ken for a number of months, and how helpful and insightful he is. He's really helped me delve a little more into the packet, because he'd come with line and
Yes.
page and ask the really good questions. And so he's really had an effect on me personally. So Ken, thank you for 10 years of service. That's a long time. And also thank you for your mentorship of many that have been up on the dais. And so, again, thank you. We appreciate you, and we wish you well as you find other things to do for the community as you see fit.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I just want to also just comment that, in 10 years, the city has changed quite a bit in good ways. I think it's just been really good. The professionalism coming from the staff. My wife actually worked at the city years ago and was the personal assistant to the mayor and also, I think, to the plan commissioner at the time. And just some of the stories that she told me was one of the reasons why I decided I wanted to volunteer to see if, I don't know if I, could do anything, but, just at least try to adhere to the principles of the oath that we take, to the, things that we believe in, and professionalism, and also just really make the city, try to contribute in some way to make the city the way we want it. We would all like to, and the city, the staff, the folks, as well as the planning commission, just really has evolved into just a really terrific and professional and just a really terrific organizations. And it just gives me, really good, positive optimism for how the city's going to continue to go in that direction. And it's just under really good guidance and just really good leadership and thought, leaders. So, and the planning commission itself also has really matured. And I think you guys are all just really terrific. And the future of the city is in good hands, at least from the planning commission point of view. So, I'm leaving just with a big smile on my face. But it was really terrific serving here, and I encourage all of you, if you can, for as long as you can, to continue with this, and then find new avenues as well, because it really is rewarding, and to see some of the things that you said yes to and no to showing up on the streets that, our streets. So, and I'm really looking forward to the downtown area, and I wish I was here to help with that, but I'm just really hoping that or I'm just really encouraged by what I think that you guys are going to be able to help with in that respect as well. So thank you, and I want to wish everybody are we done? No, we're not done yet. But I do want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, and a New Year as well. All right, so we're now to the director's report.
Just waiting for them. Okay, great. Just the last council meeting was held on December 3rd, and they approved lot coverage code amendments and Riverview townhomes, which are the ones behind, oh goodness, Taco, what's it called? The taco place. Smoked Taco, thank you. We also, at that meeting, appointed 2 new commissioners to replace our commissioners that are leaving. These are very bittersweet appointments, obviously, and then reappointed Scott Hill. So Scott Hill was filling a partial term, so now he's appointed to serve a full 4-year term, and that's how Ken got to 10 years rather than 8 years. And then you guys will notice, we did follow up we were hopeful that you could use your personal email. It turns out you cannot, and that is because if you ever get grandma'd, a grandma is a records request, Government Records Act Management something, right? So if you ever get GRAMA, right? If you ever get your records requested, you don't want to have to give up your personal email. So that is what we found out. So we do know it's a bit of an inconvenience, but we do have to keep using our city email. You do have to keep using your city emails. We did check into that. Anyhow, that's where that landed. And if you get lucked out, you've got the IT contact on here. There's 2 of them now. And I think they can send you an email to reset it, and then you might have to do something on your phone too. And just a reminder again about the training. I've gotten some of your documents, that you did your 4 requirements of training, or the 4 categories. And I want to talk about Ken just a little bit more too. So I did have the pleasure of working with Ken's wife before I ever met Ken. And so I know a few things about him that maybe not everybody knows. So their family lived in Japan for 5 years before, I think Ken's part Japanese. And also Ken is a cancer survivor. I don't know how many of you know that. But so yeah, I got to hear about their family when their kids were little and things like that. And when I bump into Tarmi, she's fantastic. And I did think it was amazing that is, part of what got you interested in. I think maybe your neighbors was a council member or something like that. And Macomber. So Macomber loves that that you're on our commission and that you've been on our commission for so long, and the job that you do and the input. So again, totally, completely bittersweet. It's been a long time. I feel like we rolled in our jobs and you guys, in service to your community. And you've been fantastic. You're really going to be missed. So thank you for all of your
Appreciate
years.
it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
If there's nothing else, do we need to go into a closed session?
We don't.
Okay. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I just wanted to add, we are having official recognition by the city council, 7th, for Ken and Reed on their outgoing service. So hopefully you've already been contacted about that, Ken. If not, then we'll make sure you.
Okay, I didn't know.
Oh, okay, yes, January 7th.
7th.
January 7th, we just want you to come and receive a recognition, so.
We better
thank
make
you.
sure Reed gets that too.
And one of our upcoming commissioners is in the audience tonight, just so you guys know, so.
Welcome.
And former.
Oh, and our former commissioner, our former commissioner. New face commissioner. This is Charlie, and you all know Troy, so, yeah.
Well, it was a pleasure and a bittersweet, but we're adjourned.